Hi, I'm Jill Gilliamball. I'm an infant and early childhood mental health consultant. I work for the Children's Resource Center in Bowling Green, Ohio. I just wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about the social, emotional, and behavioral effects of news and media violence on young children. We know that we're living in a day and age where we have the digital world kind of at our fingertips, right? And so do our children. There's a lot of different exposure that kids have to media and news, more so than I think ever in the past. So thinking about what is some of that violence exposure that kids might see. The news, whether that be breaking news, popping in on a program you're watching, or just the evening news. I always remember as a kid, the evening news was kind of a staple in our house. It was always on in the background, whether I was sitting down to watch or it was just on and my parents were watching. And we know that our country is really in a state of a lot of unrest right now. And there is a lot of very scary things for adults, let alone children, going on and being reported. So we really have to be careful what we're watching and what's on the television when our young children are around. Um, on that note, those programming that is just made for older children or adults, again, whether they're watching it or not, if they're in the area, we know that their ears and eyes are always kind of open to what's going on. Video games, whether they have their own, tablets or devices or they're watching other people, there's a lot of violence in a lot of video games. So really being careful what they're in the presence of. We also recognize, this is that TVY programming, but we have to recognize that even cartoons that our children enjoy and that they're watching can sometimes have some violent acts that we maybe don't want our children to imitate. Sometimes those cartoon characters are smushing each other, smacking each other upside the head, or whatever that may be. And our kiddos are seeing all of that and kind of soaking it in. And we also know that kids have their own tablets and their own devices and computers, and they have their own programming that they like to watch. So just being cautious of what that is and what may be on. Even if there's commercials, there may be some things that kind of are violent that we really don't want our young children to be exposed to. Um, so we talked about where we find all of this and where kids are seeing all of this, but really what I want to focus on is why is that a problem? And what we know is that our young children are seeing, hearing, and absorbing a lot of violent images these days through news and media outlets. We know that it's sending inappropriate messages for their age and their development. We know that they have a very hard time distinguishing between fantasy and reality. So that's really hard for them, where their brain is developing at that moment. It's really hard for them to recognize that when a cartoon character is smacking their friend, that's just a joke and it's not really reality. It's meant to make maybe older people laugh whose brains are developed a little bit more. So it's really hard for our young kiddos to kind of recognize that. And we know that our young children are learning by observing, whether that be us or if that's some programming that they're watching, and imitating. So if we don't want our children to be doing some of these, I don't know if I want to say violent, but more aggressive acts, we really have to be cautious of what they're seeing and what they're taking in. In conclusion, I really just wanted to point out that we know that early life experiences that young children have, especially in that 0 to 5, age 6 window, affect their brain development. So their brain is developing on all of the things that they're exposed to and they're hearing and seeing and they're soaking it all in. We know that media violence can negatively affect behavior because our kiddos are imitating, absorbing, and then they're imitating. So really being cautious of what we're allowing our children to watch or even just be in the presence of. And if you get a moment to put away those electronics and get down on the floor with them and just play, I promise it'll be so much better for their brain development. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed listening.